So, you're in your notice period here in Switzerland. The pressure is on, right? You've got to find a new job, but how are you supposed to do that when you're still working? Well, today we are going to pull back the curtain on a super important right you have that you might not even know about: getting paid time off to go find that next job. I mean, it's the classic catch-22, isn't it? Your current job is ending, but you're still on the hook for your full-time hours. Trying to discreetly schedule interviews or just find the headspace to fill out applications feels, well, it feels pretty much impossible. So what's the deal? Is there a solution? You bet there is. And thankfully, Swiss law has totally got your back on this one. This isn't just some nice company policy. It is a legal requirement. It's written right into the Swiss Code of Obligations. This is a real fundamental protection for every single employee. Okay, so to get our heads around all of this, here's our plan. We'll start with the basics of this right. Then we'll get into the big questions. How much time do you get? Is it paid? And what about special cases? We'll also look at what your employer can and can't do, and we'll wrap up with a clear action plan for you.
So, first up, is this actually a right? Yes, 100%. In legal terms, this falls under something called außerordentliche Freizeit, which literally translates to extraordinary free time, or as we'd call it, special leave.
And what that means is the law puts job searching in the same bucket as other really important personal things. Like a doctor's appointment you just can't miss or a big family event. The system recognizes that finding a new job isn't a hobby. It's a necessary task you need time to do. And here's a really critical point. It makes zero difference who started the termination process, whether you handed in your resignation or your employer gave you notice. This right to job search time kicks in the moment that notice period begins. It's for everybody. All right, let's move on to the question everyone asks. How much time do I actually get? Are we talking an hour here and there, a whole day? Let's get specific. In practice, the general rule of thumb, the standard across most of Switzerland, is half a day per week. Now, that can often be flexible. For example, you might split it into two 2-hour blocks if you have a couple of interviews to get to. But listen, that half day is not a hard and fast rule. The law says the time should be decided in good faith, which basically means it has to be reasonable for your situation. So let's say you have a really short notice period, or the job market is just tough right now. Maybe your age or personal situation makes the search harder. Even just having to travel a long way for an interview can be a good reason to get more time. Now, this is a super important point to remember. This is not a free pass to just take every Friday afternoon off. You are only entitled to the time you actually need for specific job hunting tasks, like going to an interview. You have to be actively using the time for what it's for. Okay, let's talk about the big one, Section 3, the money. So you get this time off. Great. But does it hit your paycheck? Well, the answer is, it depends. It's pretty straightforward, actually. If you're on a monthly salary, that time off is paid. Simple as that. No deductions should be made from your pay. But if you're paid an hourly wage, you're generally only paid for the hours you physically work. So in that case, the time off for job searching would be unpaid. All right, let's jump into some of those special cases and tricky exceptions that always seem to pop up. What if you're a part-time worker? Or what about an apprentice? Let's clear that up. This table breaks it down nicely. If you're on a fixed-term contract, say like an apprenticeship, the right still applies. You just figure out what a normal notice period would be. For part-timers, it's a bit of a gray area. If you could easily schedule interviews on your days off, you might not get extra time. And hey, even if you're starting your own company, you can get time for it, but you've got to show that it's just not possible to do it on your own time. Okay, here's another classic source of confusion. Your boss gives you the afternoon off for an interview, but then asks you to work late on Thursday to make up for it. Can they do that? And the answer is a pretty clear no. This time is protected. Think of it as special leave, not a loan of time from the company. You are not expected to pay it back with overtime later, unless there's some very specific and legally sound clause in your contract that says otherwise. Now for a really important part. Let's talk about what your employer is not allowed to do when you ask for this time. It is so important to know where the lines are drawn. Let's be really clear here. Your employer cannot demand proof of every single thing you do. They can't just say no without a really good business reason. They absolutely cannot make you use your precious vacation days or overtime for this. And it goes without saying they can't fire you for using a right the law gives you. It's all about respect and following the rules.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We've gone through the what and the why, so let's finish up with the how. Here is your super simple, step-by-step action plan. It really boils down to 3 simple steps. 1. Inform. Just let your manager know you have an interview or need some time. 2. Coordinate. Work with them to find a time that causes the least disruption. And 3. Justify. Remember, you only need to show proof if they ask, and if the request is reasonable. It's not automatic.
Look, at the end of the day, this whole process works smoothly when there's good communication and both you and your employer are acting in good faith. It's all about being reasonable and respectful on both sides. So, the main thing to walk away with is this. You have a legal right to the time you need to find your next job. But that leaves me with one final question for you. Now that you know about this right, what other crucial protections do you have during your notice period that you might not even be aware of?